So uh, now let us start as usual. We still have 8 minutes, but we can start slowly with clarifying some questions. As far as I remember, we are starting with the fifth parami, the fifth perfection, which is in fact, the beginning and the end of all perfections, and that is shamatha and vipassana, right?
Yeah.
That's what we stopped. And this is very important part because, in fact, we are concerned with the non-dualistic philosophy. Non-dualistic philosophy is precisely the inseparable link between shamatha and vipassana. So we should know why they are considered to be one perfection, why they are inseparable, and the peculiarity of the explanation here, which is based on the Tathagata Garbha, or the Buddha nature. This text, we should know, is one of the most important texts in Chinese tradition, not known in Tibet, as far as I am aware, hmm? Where the most important text for understanding the Buddha nature is the Uttara Tantra Shastra. And here we have a text with similar meaning, advocating the the unity of shamatha and vipassana, because as the scriptures of Mahayana explain, no matter whether Madhyamika or the Yogacara, that from the point of view of ultimate wisdom, the highest wisdom, the body or shape is not shape, and mind is not mind. Because shape is not shape and mind is not mind. So, as the Diamond Sutra teaches, the Buddha can know all the shapes and can know all the minds as they are, because the mind cannot be caught, the body cannot be caught. And this not catching the mind and not catching the body is the tolerance of the Dharma Anutpatti, Shanti, the Fa Ren, the tolerance of non-arising of Dharma. Dharma here means actually all the phenomena. So we want to discuss shamatha and vipassana. So actually we are discussing this part as the Vimalakirti, the very important in Chinese tradition. Wei Mo Jing explains Yi Jie Fa Ru Fa Xin. That all dharmas are inseparable, actually are the Buddha nature, or are the essence of Buddhahood, which is the mind of all beings. The mind of all beings is the Pragya Paramita Sutras explain, is Buddha knows all the minds because his mind does not dwell anywhere. This is the idea of Dhammapada also, because he has no mind. His mind cannot be reached in past, present, and future. So he can know us beings because we are beings because we have mind, and we have mind because we reflect on things. So because we reflect on things in a different way, so we have innumerable minds, and Buddha can see all these minds because he stays in this pragya paramita, in the perfection of wisdom and in the perfection of samadhi. Perfection of wisdom is the perfection of samadhi. Hmm? So basically, what we want to attain when we practice the non-dualistic approach, we want to attain the uh, the wisdom samadhi. The wisdom samadhi is called Chan or Zen or Son or many names, which basically means dhyana. But what we mean by dhyana in the Buddhist tradition of the disciples has a very different meaning. So we need this background to understand how this treatise explain actually the practice. We have to know the mind, but the mind we can know is only relative mind. We have to know the shapes, but the shapes we know are only relative shapes. And that is why the Buddha can know all minds and all shapes, all forms, because he stays in a chan, in a wisdom uh, samadhi. Samadhi literally means the correct application of the mind. In the non-dualistic tradition, the correct application of mind is not dwelling in body and not dwelling in mind. Because neither, as Daimon Sutra explains, one who sees the Xiang, who sees the nimitta, who sees the image, does not see the Buddha. One who sees a Buddha does not see any Xiang, does not see any image. So the Buddha's mind and body is unattainable in the three times. Pukhata, aprapya, and pukhata, aprapya, not attaining is the skillful means of non-dualistic meditation. This is what we should be clear, since we chant being a Buddhist connected to non-dualistic tradition, we chant the Heart Sutra every day, short version or long version, like the Tibetans do. And it is explaining that the practice is not attaining. By not attaining, we attain the Wushang body, the supreme body. So now we are explaining this most important part of this fourth chapter, the meditation, the fifth perfection, how to connect meditation of shamatha with the meditation of vipassana. So before we start, I have explained the essence. Now, let us see if there are any questions as to that before we start with the actual text, which is after explaining the perfection of giving, of discipline, of the acceptance, and of the effort. We have the perfection of shamatha and vipassana, not separated. Therefore, not the usual 6 perfections or 10 perfections, all boils down here to 5 perfections, because based on the pragya paramita, based on the perfection of wisdom, we cannot separate shamatha and vipassana. And this is the essence of the wisdom samadhi. So now let us see if there are any questions to clarify before we go to the actual text. In order to understand the actual text, I had to explain this basic approach, which actually, when you study Buddhism deeply, and especially when you study the Pali tradition, it is not really contrary to Pali tradition. The Pali tradition also says that the true mind has no dwelling, is anoka, without dwelling. So nobody can gauge the mind of the Buddha, not even wise Shariputra. Nobody can gauge the sensations of Buddha because his mind does not dwell. Does not dwell is understood. He dwells in nirvana, and nirvana is not the dwelling. But here we have non-dualistic understanding. So not dwelling anywhere actually means not dwelling in nirvana, not dwelling in samsara. So even though the roots are the same, the interpretation is very different. And that is why we find this shamatha and vipassana not as explained in the Pali tradition as a separate disciplines, but as one discipline. So this background to our understanding of what we're going to read today and study. Now let us see if there are any questions. Agus, maybe he has some good ideas to help others to understand.
Pastor Agus not joined yet. He said he will join very soon.
I have no question, Pastor.
Oh, Agus already joined.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, because I did not see you.
Oh, okay. So anyone has some question? We have explained the very important points, aspects. Maybe Agus has not heard, but we have explained that in.
I heard, Pastor. I heard, but I have not. I don't have question yet. Thank you very much.
So then, if you have heard, so do you have any questions, or you please encourage others to ask questions so that we can all benefit from this explanation we have here. How to practice the shamatha and vipassana as one discipline.
Okay, Pastor. If there is no friend who asks, perhaps if we relate to your other teaching a few years before, when you taught in YouTube in almost 40 teaching more about Samatha in Sravaka tradition.
So it is, you think it is clear to everybody, because many of us studied the Vipassana and studied in a different way. Now we are facing a very different explanation, but it is based on the tradition, which is actually same. No, only explanation is different.
So in this text, we can relate with your previous teaching, like 9 stages of Samatha for Sravaka,
Yes,
Gajara,
and it is actually the one hyo or yuan zi, the most important with Fazang commentator of this treatise, which is widely cited. Also by Lusthaus, you mentioned. So actually, he brings into the explanation of shamatha, which comes before vipassana, he brings the 9 stages as explained in the Yogacara Bhumi Shastra. And they are great help for understanding shamatha, even as it is explained here. So these 9 stages are just a skillful means for getting a practical overview how to practice efficiently. Not just not attaining anything, which is very abstract, but concretely attaining in order to non-attain. Because the samadhi is kind of non-attainment, because the mind does not grasp the pleasant, does not reject the unpleasant. So it can understand the uh, the arisings are actually illusionary. There in the samadhi there is no real arising. Even if you use the help of some object, the arising, because the mind sticks to the object, the arising is easily to be understood as something which does not belong there. So even though the traditional Mahayana techniques as taught nowadays in the Tibetan and Chinese tradition don't teach systematically. Some do, but like Tiantai, but it is more rare, or Yogacara, it is more rare than usual. They just go directly to what is described here, the connecting shamatha with vipassana. But the one is not uh, as Huineng, the great teacher of Chan, points out, he does not teach the traditional shamatha, the 8 liberations, as the living tradition still now in Burma. We have to learn 8 liberations to be masters of meditation. He says he does not teach the 8 liberations, but he does not deny that they are very useful. They surely are very useful, and whole Buddhist cosmology is based on them. Okay, so there's that much. Now, if we are quite clear about the Mahayana meditation, the importance of Mahayana meditation, which is to not only to attain liberation, to get rid of defilements, but to attain the pure land, which is the real nature of the mind, and to conduct the beings to this pure land we have created in our own mind. This is Mahayana, and it is same in Chinese tradition or in Tibetan tradition. We have to create a pure land, even though the skillful means are different, and we have to help beings also to bring them to the pure land. Otherwise, no way to practice shamatha and vipassana together. So Shall we go to the text or any other questions to clarify?
For me, okay, Pastor. Thank you, Pastor. Enough. Thank you very much.
Let us read the text. I don't have the English translation, but I will try my best with the Chinese. So the author starts with how to practice the shamatha and vipassana method. Men, paryaya. Very wonderful word in Chinese and in Sanskrit, very difficult to translate into English. For lack of better translation, we just translate as a method. So how to practice or cultivate? Shiushin means to practice and also means to cultivate. How to cultivate translates the Sanskrit or Pali bhavana. How to cultivate shamatha and vipassana method. You can also translate as being one method. That is to say, 所言知止, that is to say, as far as shamatha is concerned, that is, zhi means shamatha, translates shamatha, but literally means stopping. So in Chinese, they translate shamatha as stopping. Stopping what? Stopping defilements, of course. Stopping prapancha. Stopping useless thinking based on grasping. So that's why the shamatha, which literally means appeasement, is translated into Chinese, not into Tibetan, as stopping. And it says stopping all images, all xiang, of the objects, or stopping all signs of objects. Very wonderful. Shamatha means stopping, appeasement means stopping all signs of object, all images or objects. So this is rather very different from the idea you get in Abhidharma. And however, it is based on the same premises as Abhidharma. That means that the true mind does not hold to any images. That is a true mind. So shamatha then does not mean to use the image to stop the mind from going here and going there, but it means actually stop all images of object. And that is the meaning. Suishun, shamatha, here he does not use the j translator, the stopping, but he uses a transcription from Sanskrit. That means, that is a meaning of following the shamatha. What we call, or what is called the meaning of vipassana. Vipassana in Chinese is translated as quan, which means observing. This may be related to, remember the Kumarajiva, he translates vichara as a quan. And without quan, without vichara, you cannot talk of any vipassana, of any insight. Because vichara is from the Sanskrit root uha, which means to weigh in the mind. So The meaning of Vipassana in Chinese means weighing the objects in the mind. The shamatha is not following any objects in the mind, and Vipassana is weighing the objects in the mind, considering the objects in the mind. That is wisdom. And that wisdom of observation or of weighing objects in the mind, that means to discern, Fenpie, the objects which are subjected to arising and ceasing due to causes and conditions. Yin, Yuan, Shen, Mie, Xiang. And that is, when we do that, when we discern the causes and conditions of the images which appear and cease, we are following the Vipassana. The meaning of Vipassana is that. And how to put them together? By gradually practice one inseparable from the other. That is called Yugala Nada in Sanskrit. They are bound into a pair. So how to practice? By gradually binding them, this shamatha method, not allowing any sign of object dwell in the mind, and the Vipassana method to weigh or to consider the causes and conditions of the signs or images of objects which appear and disappear due to causes and conditions. We gradually practice them in Yugala Nada, letting them appear in mind as a pair. So hopefully this will this is a very important passage which we need to think about carefully. So the text I have in hand, the Hanshan's commentary, explains, quotes the Tiantai tradition. As we should know, Tiantai tradition is a base for the Chan tradition. So this Zhi Yi Da Shi in the Xiao Zhi Guan, the small treatise on shamatha and vipassana, speaks of the three kinds of shamatha and vipassana. That means the cultivating the body, mind, and breath. Three kinds of shamatha and vipassana, and three kinds of putting them together by understanding their appearance as being emptiness, as the Heart Sutra explains, and as being a tya, as being illusionary, not real. Whatever appears, we go back to the Pragya Paramita, the Tajatulun, and the Nagarjuna's commentary to the great sutras of transcendental wisdom. The whatever appears is empty and illusionary. It does not mean, it does not appear or is not real. It appears and is real in the conventional reality, not in the highest reality. So that's why all the Mahayana teachers especially emphasize the right distinction between the conventional reality and the highest reality, to ultimately understand that reality is one. But first we have to distinct correctly. Distinct correctly means putting shamatha and vipassana in a pair. Understanding that as Wei Mo King, as Vimalakirti explained, all dharmas, no matter whether nirvana, no matter whether samsaric, no matter whether non-arising or arising and ceasing, all dharmas, they are inseparable from the Buddha nature. This is what is to be realized by shamatha and vipassana. And when we realize it, then our Buddha nature becomes pure, it becomes a Buddha land, and we will be able to convert all the beings to the Buddha land, to the pure mind. This is the ideal of non-dualistic meditation. That's why we give rise to the Bodhisattva vows, not to liberate just oneself, but all beings, not to remove defilements of oneself, but of all beings, and to learn all methods for that purpose in order to accomplish the perfect realization. The realization based on correct differentiation is then, as Lotus Sutra teaches, is only skillful means for attaining the highest realization, which is one. There are not two or three or four. And the highest realization means all appears and disappears in Buddha nature, which always stays. This Buddha nature, of course, is emptiness, as we have explained before. Emptiness means zero, and zero does not arise and cease, yet everything arises and ceases because there is a zero. Otherwise, its appearance and disappearance would not mean anything. Now we come to shamatha. This is a tradition you will find in all Buddhist scriptures, and not only in Buddhist scriptures. This is a principle of yoga. First, you have to appease the mind in order to engage in wisdom. The wisdom actually means the thorough knowledge. Pragya. Gya means knowing. Pragya, thorough knowing. So in order to engage in thorough knowing, we have to appease the mind. And how do we appease the mind? Same in all Buddhist tradition, we appease the mind by samma sati, by right mindfulness. Without mindfulness, no way to appease mind. We need mindfulness to appease mind. When we appease mind, we can thoroughly understand the nature of our experience. In the tradition of the disciples, to appease the mind, we need a suitable object, which is called karma sthana, the place of effort, literally. Here, to appease the mind, we have to contemplate that everything is a mind. Vaishin, chittamatrata, mind only. Nothing exists except the mind. And there is we have seen in our scripture, very important. The mind has mind base is alaya, and alaya has two aspects. The aspect which appears and disappears, and the aspect which does not appear and disappear. This aspect which does not appear and disappear is here identified with the Buddha nature. The Buddha nature is Buddha nature because it does not have any own essence or own characteristic. Zixiang. It has no zixiang. So you cannot grasp it. And the method to grasp it is non-grasping, as the Heart Sutra explains, as Diamond Sutra explains. So the Buddha is omniscient because he does not grasp. Not grasping, he can reflect all forms and minds as they are, without falsification. And falsification means grasping. This is same in all Buddhist understanding. When we grasp, we falsify the reality. So we create, we are in the process of creating one's own reality instead of seeing things as they are. So as far as the practice of shamatha is concerned, let me see my Czech translation. As far as a practice of shamatha is concerned, one should live in a peaceful place. One should live in a peaceful place. This you will find in Visuddhimagga, you will find in all books dealing with yoga. One should live in peaceful place. One should not be disturbed by the outside world. It does not mean one should be blind to the outside world, but not disturbed by the outside world. And one should tuan zuo gen yi, very wonderful thing. One should, this is not easy to translate. I wonder how they translate it into English, but it means one should sit straight with the right mind or right concentration, because in Buddhist tradition, the right mind is the concentrated mind. It comes in Pali also. The real mind is a concentrated mind. The monkey mind is real mind to the monkey, but it should not be a real mind to the human beings who are privileged by having access to what you may call intuition. Intuition about what is the true self. So two things. Hmm? He should isolate from outer disturbances, and he should keep his spine straight, as Visuddhimagga describes. Visuddhimagga has very wonderful description. To meditate, one has to have a straight spine like a pillar. One should visualize one's spine like a pillar. The 18 ribs forming a continuous line. Actually, they not in line, but we it will help when we visualize them like that. And then to have mindfulness. Gen E here means one mindfulness. With correctly concentrated mind. And the concentrated mind is in Buddhist tradition, also in yoga, by the way, is called the right mind. The non-monkey mind is called the wrong mind. Jia Yi, the illusionary mind. So this, when you read the yoga books, no matter whether Buddhist or Hindu, you will find that the condition for samadhi is the isolation of the body. This is explained here. Isolate the skillful means for isolating the body. That means isolating the mind from the five senses, so that mind goes to its own dwelling, which is inside the body, not outside the body. That is called the kaya viveka, the isolation of the body. And the skillful means for isolation of the body is to concentrate. Concentrate. Without concentration, you cannot isolate the body from the running to the objects of the five senses. Impossible. Well, that is called in yoga pratyahara, and here it's called Gen E, the right mind. Right mind is you gather it inside, not outside. So this is called the isolation of the body. Isolation of the body is the condition for isolation of the mind. Isolation of the mind, chitta viveka. Again, for better understanding, viveka is from Sanskrit root which has two meanings: isolate and also wisdom. We cannot be wise unless we isolate the mind in the body. This is a very important part of Indian tradition. Pratyahara. When we have pratyahara, we can learn to practice samadhi. Usually it is by dharani, by holding the object in the mind without any letting it be distracted by the five senses. When one succeeds in isolation of the body, then the isolation of the mind is dhyana. Through dhyana, one then can enter the samadhi, or dhyana itself is a samadhi. And this right mind the text continues, very important, should not depend on breathing, should not depend on any form, should not depend on emptiness. Here, however, emptiness means akasha, that means space, not emptiness as the highest reality. So akasha, when we speak of form, form has either 4 or 5 aspects. The earth, water, fire, wind, and the water, fire, wind cannot exist without a space. So we have actually 5 elements, and this is what is meant here, as far as I understand. So it should not rely on empty space. It should not rely on earth, water, fire, wind. Whatever has a shape has these elements. The Abhidharma understanding of earth is hardness, softness, smoothness, roughness, heaviness, lightness. The water is cohesion and flowing. Fire is coolness or heat. And wind is supporting or vibration. This is wherever there is a shape that you can grasp, there you will find these elements. So they are the real experience of anything that has a shape which we can grasp. And also, it does not depend on anything we can see, we can hear, or we can experience. We can experience by other senses. It means by taste, by hearing, we have mentioned, by taste, by touching, and by smelling. That is jeju. So that it does not rely on anything we can experience, in other words, by the 5 senses. So whenever all different perceptions come, one should at the same moment try to give or try to get his mind rid of them. He should abandon them, simply saying. And also, he should eventually even leave the thought of abandoning them, the very concept of abandoning them. This is very wonderful, not easy to do. One has to learn step by step. First, not letting them continue, and then even getting rid of the thought of not letting them continue. This is how you can perfectly join the mind of shamatha with vipassana. When they arise, you simply don't consider their arising as arising. They, in reality, they are non-erosion. This is what is meant here. Very important to understand. The arising is not a real arising. The ceasing is not a real ceasing, because the the real mind does not move. That which moves is a illusionary mind, and it moves because it is based in that which cannot be grasped. Call it emptiness. So the from the Tiantai point of view, the cultivating of the body means cultivating the kaya viveka. The skillful means for kaya viveka is what the yoga describes as stira, stira sukha asana. The bodily posture should be stable and comfortable. Then you can not pay attention to the objects of the five senses. If you don't have asana, if you don't have stable and comfortable posture, then for beginner, you will always be concerned with all kinds of sensations and forget your meditation object, whether it be breath or here just emptiness. Then isolating the mind, here we come to the 9 stages. Actually isolating the mind is, as the Yogacara Bhumi Shastra, as Asanga explains, means practicing the 9 steps of shamatha. 9 steps of shamatha, from letting the mind dwell inside, have continuity inside, then removing the obstacles not by force but by mindfulness. Let the mindfulness ripen. Then when the mindfulness ripens, then the gross tendency to excitement will not be there. Then tame the gross tendency to laya, to thinking, the 5th stage, and then you get appeasement. When you get appeasement, you can then go higher in shamatha. You can practice the right like abhoga, anabhoga, neither too much effort, no too little effort in keeping the mind in balance. Then the one-pointedness will be reached. When one-pointedness has continuity, this is samadhi. These are the 9 stages which Tiao Xin, which subdue the mind. And when you attain the dhyana, the 4th dhyana, which is a true dhyana, according to Asanga, the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd dhyana are only the skillful means to attaining the 4th dhyana. When you attain the 4th dhyana, you have subdued the breath. The breath does not appear anymore. In our case, does not appear anymore in the nostrils, but maybe, I don't know, when you become the perfect Buddha, so maybe you can stop even the subtle breath, which is practically unthinkable for us ordinary practitioners. Nevertheless, Buddha is said to have achieved this highest stage of concentration when his 5 senses simply stopped. He was in storm, trees were falling at his feet, but he did not hear anything. So in this case, when you attain this absence of breath, even the subtle breath, you, so to say, don't feel the body anymore. So when you don't rely on the 5 elements or 4 elements, you don't rely on the world. When you don't rely on breath, you don't rely on the body. And when you don't rely on the mind, then you can attain the samadhi. So not relying on the mind means not relying on the mind which is concerned with the 5 senses. This is what is meant here. Yi Jie Fa Pen Lai Wu Xiang. Here we come to the very familiar passage for students of the perfection of wisdom, which says that originally there was no perception of the 5 senses. This perception of the 5 senses only came when the mind became distracted. So that means, as the Vimalakirti says, Yi Jie Fa Ru Fa Xin, all the phenomena are in the Dharmata, in the Buddha nature, in the Buddha body, which is no body, in the Buddha mind, which is no mind. And having no body, no mind, one can have omniscience, understanding all the bodies and understanding all the minds, just reflecting them as they arise. And one's own mind does not arise. So this all the phenomena don't really arise moment by moment. They don't really arise because the true nature of the mind has no any shape we can grasp, not any form we can grasp, not any sign we can grasp, not any image we can grasp. All these are the meanings of the Hyang, nimitta. So that is why this difficulty in translating from Chinese. Hyang can mean image, can mean symbol, can mean object, can mean even arising, which is clear for the students of Chinese Buddhism, but very difficult to explain to the rationally thinking people brought up as myself in a way in Western type of thinking. So the real arising is non-arising. So when you understand that, then your mind will not think of any outside objects, so that you will be able by get rid of the arising of the mind by the next mind, which follows the previous mind. Whenever you see the tendency to arising, you get rid of even of this tendency, so that the mind does not gallop, literally gallop and distract in the objects of the 5 senses. When it does, you just gather it inside the body. This is the Kaya Viveka, Chitta Viveka. So this means dwelling in the samasati, in the right mindfulness. So the right mindfulness does not mean the right mindfulness of body, sensations, mind, and mental objects. It is the actually essence of the mindfulness practice in Buddhism, but it means actually the mindfulness of the true nature of our experience, which is that true object and true mind do not arise. So non-arising is understanding arising. Non-cessation is understanding sensation. When you dwell in this state, so the following mind will reject and finally not allow at all the tendency of mind to arise. So you can go into this samadhi, which is called eka samskara samadhi, one formation samadhi. In other tradition, it is called the surangama samadhi, lenyen which this samadhi of no object, as here taught also in all scriptures of Mahayana, it means actually the base for all samadhis. 108 in Pragya Paramita Sutra, but finally it becomes illimitable samadhis. All objects become samadhi because the real samadhi is the understanding that everything happens in the Buddha nature, or that arises and passes, arises and passes in the Buddha nature, is never separated from the Buddha nature. And since the Buddha nature has no real object, has no real image, has no real arising, has no real sign. So this samadhi of the chittamatrata, of mind only, is the samadhi of non-arising of any body or any mind, non-arising of any image. Because whatever arises, it needs some image, concrete or abstract. So the real samasati, the real right mindfulness, means that beside the mind there is nothing, and the true mind does not arise, does not cease. What does not arise does not cease. And what arises and ceases also can only arise and cease in the true mind, in the Buddha nature. So there is no outside objects. Chintye means gochara, which means no outside pastures for the cow of the mind. Cow, in order to survive, needs some pastures to graze. But the mind, in order to arise, needs some objects. But the the true mind does not arise, does not pass away, and does not need any true objects to grasp. When we understand this, then we understand that that mind, which does not arise, also does not have any self characteristic or self essence. And this absence of self-characteristics and self-essence means that moment by moment, nien nien, pukata, this true mind, which is can be with an object or without an object. The true mind does not change. When the object comes, even when anger comes, the true mind is always there because it never arose. And since it never arose, so the objects arising in it also cannot be grasped. When we understand it, we understand the true appeasement of the mind, which does not need any object to grasp. If it uses objects to grasp, it is only skillful means to attain the true samadhi, in which all real objects are stopped. When the real objects are stopped, the real processes of mind also stop. When the real processes of mind also stop, then there is only one reality. This is non-dualistic approach. There are not two realities. Two realities is only means for attaining the one reality, one true reality, which moment by moment remains the same, even though the objects arise and pass. So we come to this meditation of shamatha. Meditation of shamatha actually means that the one moment is the true moment, and this true moment we cannot establish. Again, we come to the perfection of wisdom sutras, especially Nagarjuna's commentary, Tajatulun, which always repeats in a different context that the one moment, inyan, literally one memory, one memory is the true memory. And that is the memory of the true nature of the mind, which cannot be established. Why? Again, we have to go to the perfection of wisdom sutras, because the nirvana also cannot be established. So this is the difference between the nirvana of the disciples and the nirvana of the bodhisattvas. Nirvana of the bodhisattvas cannot be established. This is called apratishtita nirvana, non-established nirvana. And no, that which is non-established, you cannot establish. Because that which is not established, as the commentaries explain, Fazang, very beautiful explanation, it has no cause, no continuity, and no relativity. That which cannot be established has no cause. How can that which hasn't arisen can be established? It has no cause. What can be established can be established because it has causes and conditions. But that true mind, the Buddha's mind, the Buddha nature, that suchness, the true way of things, the limit of reality, has no cause. When it has no cause, it cannot have also any real continuity, because continuity belongs to something which has a cause. And it is not related to anything because It is beyond the relation. So that memory of that mind or that moment of that mind is called the samasati, the correct mindfulness. Correct mindfulness is understanding that true memory is no memory. Very wonderful. So many koans to explain this unexplainable. Unexplainable is the nirvana of the bodhisattvas. It cannot be explained like the full moon, but we have to explain it, otherwise no one will believe it. So this one mind or one memory, according to the commentaries, it is a power of the mind. When the mind stays in one memory, in one moment, then it regains power. When the mind has power, the illusionary thoughts lose power. When the mind has no power, the illusionary thoughts have power. This is a very wonderful explanation we find in commentaries. So when the mind has no memory, when the mind remains in one moment, which is has no cause, no continuity, no relativity, so the mind attains a power, and in the power of the mind, in this true stopping of the mind, that's why here stopping is quite useful, this word stopping for shamatha. In stopping of the mind, everything becomes clear. So in order to make things clear in the non-dualistic tradition, we have to stop arising of the illusionary mind of the Wang Xiang. That's why the first thing you learn from a good Zen teacher, Makumozo, don't give rise to the illusionary mind. Let your mind have a power. If your mind has power, so you will understand that the real nature of mind, which you can grasp, has never arisen. And that is Chan. That is Zen. Very wonderful things to learn. But as the scripture always makes us aware, it's not something we can learn. We just write that we understand it as I explain it. As I explain it, it's not difficult to understand, especially if you read some good books like Tajitalun and the Mahapragya Paramita Shastra, or if you repeat the Heart Sutra, it's not so difficult to understand, but to practice, one needs to go step by step and gather what the commentaries describe as the Xing Li, the power of the mind. The power of the mind is in penetrating the true mind, which in which there is impossibility to grasp anything. Uh, this impossibility to grasp anything is the enlightenment. And when you get the real enlightenment, then according to this tradition, you are actually abandoning the mind. So this Zen always Zen paradox. In mind, abandon the mind. How can we in mind abandon the mind? By gathering the power of the mind. And this abandoning in mind, abandoning the mind is called the chan, to practice Zen, to practice Chan. In Chan practice, in virtue of the power of the mind, the objects are abandoned. It does not mean they don't arise, but they don't become object of grasping. This is the essence of Buddha's teaching. And this is what the Zen masters describe learning beginning from the end. The end is understanding that the true mindfulness is not letting the mind arise. And when it arises, not to follow it. By not following the mind which arises, the mind gets power. When the mind gets power, it does not allow the arising of mind or objects to become objects of grasping. And the grasping is existence, as we should all know in Buddhism. Because we don't understand sensations, we have thirst. Because we have thirst, we are participating in creating existence, either positive way or negative way. But understanding the essence, we can then understand the methods. Without understanding the essence, we don't understand the methods. And the method here is Buddhism, right mindfulness, but the right mindfulness of non-arising. Non-arising means not true arising. Non-arising of not of awareness of not true arising makes the mind powerful. The old Zen masters have explained, and the commentary also explains. Fazang explains. So the matter is not suppressing the arising of the illusionary mind, but to this is vipassana, but to understand the illusionary nature of the mind which arises and to which we grasp. So, so this is understanding the causes and conditions from the point of view of the ideal or the true motivation. The true motivation is the Buddhahood. In Buddhahood, nothing really arises, neither the bodies nor the minds attached to the bodies. And this is the what Lankavatara Sutra, Ru Lanka King, which the Bodhidharma, the Dhammo is supposed to have taught in China, which propagates as the method of practicing no mind or real mind or Buddha's mind or one nature mind. Many different words expressing the same idea. So the idea, what idea? That all objects that arise in mind are not a true object, but are the objects in a dream, are second moons, are the teaching of the perfect wisdom, are the echoes, are the shadows. And if you cling to the shadows, you don't have the supreme wisdom. So because you don't have the supreme wisdom, your mind does not have the power of staying in one moment, in one memory. Same teaching of Nagarjuna, of the Transcendental Wisdom Sutra. The past mind you cannot catch, present mind you cannot catch, the future mind you cannot catch. All you can catch is the illusion of the mind. So the illusion, by understanding the illusion of the mind in this scripture, connected with the Buddha nature philosophy, with the philosophy of the Tathagata Garba, all that arises can only arise in emptiness, and what arises in emptiness you cannot grasp because it is rising like a shadow, like an echo, echo of that which does not have true arising. So this is how we get the power of the mind, and when we get the power of the mind, we get the what this treatise trying to transfer to us, to teach us. That is Genru Sanme, the samadhi of suchness. The samadhi of suchness is the samadhi of the true mind. This, this is also called Surangama Samadhi, Lenyen Sanmei. It is also called Yixing Sanmei, one formation Samadhi. It is also called Yinyan Sanmei, one memory Samadhi or one moment Samadhi. Many different names explaining the same thing. So the skillful means of this Samadhi is non-arising. And in the perspective of Chittamatrata, of mind only, the non-arising is arising of the Chittamatrata, of the mind only. And the perfect knowledge of mind only, according to the Yogacara scriptures, Vasubandhu, is a privilege of the Buddha. Only the Buddha, not even advanced practitioners, advanced bodhisattvas, not even the arahats, know that no mind does not arise and dwell in this situation, which is the situation of perfect sorrow wisdom, just not arising mind, giving and reflecting whatever arises just as it is, without any particular differentiation. This is called, in this Yogacara tradition, it is called also the wisdom of the great mirror. The great mirror is nothing but the alaya, which turns to become the suchness. Alaya becomes suchness. So suchness does not dwell anywhere. So the true nature of alaya and the understanding of alaya is to lead us to the true dwelling of the mind, which is no dwelling at all, to the true mind, which is no mind at all, to the true forms, which are no forms at all. So this is a wonderful understanding, and actually it becomes eventually step by step when we practice this correctly, connecting shamatha and vipassana together, it will become the non-stop samadhi of suchness. And that is a state of Buddha. He comes in suchness, goes in suchness. And because he comes in suchness and goes in suchness, he does not come, he does not go, and he is the very nature of the mind, or in the Zen tradition, in the Lankavatara tradition, it is a true mind. The true mind, no mind. No mind, true mind. So that much for today. We will continue more about the obstacles which arise in the practice of shamatha. So important is when you practice correctly shamatha, you throw away all wangxiang, you throw away all illusionary thoughts because of your trust. That's why this treatise is called The Arising of the Face in Mahayana. Mahayana is the teaching of suchness. So because of your trust in suchness, you actually start seeing that all dharmas that arise and cease in mind, they don't really arise and don't really cease. And that is the Janyen, that is a true mindfulness. True mindfulness is that outside the true mind, nothing really exists. When you understand that, then you can understand one of the most common koan or kung-an of the Zen tradition. What is your original face before you were born? So the original face is precisely, you will see when you get rid of all the arising, all the memories. So you will get rid of holding to the five aggregates. Five aggregates is the relative here, relative reality, true relative reality, but not the highest reality. In highest reality, that arises, that what arises by causes and conditions does not truly arise. So let us see what obstacles we will face by practicing like this in order to get to the true suchness samadhi. We have to let go the six senses and let go the objects of the six senses and dwell in a memory which is no memory, dwell in mind which is no mind, dwell in mind which you cannot reach by grasping, and that mind which you cannot reach by grasping is the true mind. So that much for today. And what is the next? Today's 10.
Next week, 17.
17, Pastor.
17. 17. I'm not sure if I'm not in the retreat I have, but if I'm in retreat, never mind. I will try to find. The Monica is not here. She has a calendar. Nevi gdy začíná ten na sklenářce. Just a minute. So that I will be already in this other place. And so never mind, I can continue teaching and somebody can stop the time for meditators. And so see you next week on the 17th. And so we can finish this treatise before I leave for India, and then we can think of something else, some other activities, hopefully productive for yourself and myself too. So let us finish here by transferring the merits as usual for benefit of all sentient beings. 愿以此功德，普济一切我等一众生，皆共成佛道。May the merits of this Dharma spread to all beings, so that we can attain the perfect realization. 阿弥陀
阿弥陀佛，
Okay.
法师
Thank you,
Thank you
Pastor.
so much.
佛。
Thank you, Safu.
Thank you.
See you.
Thank you,
See you next.
Bante.
Pastor.
Thank you,
Bye.
Bante.
Bye-bye, Pastor.
Uh,
Bye.